Director Mira Nair is here. Last September, she became the first woman to win the highest honor at the Venice Film Festival. It was for her film Monsoon Wedding. The film is a portrait of a modern Punjabi family celebrating a wedding in contemporary India. And here is the trailer from the film.
Monsoon Wedding sent my spirit soaring out of the theater.
If only their lives are happy. And for that, I'm willing to take on every trouble in the world.
This spring, submerge yourself.
Just thinking.
About what?
Good Indian girls.
In all the romance.
Yeah, I know it's a risk, but what marriage isn't a risk?
Of a monsoon wedding.
I am pleased to welcome Mira Nair back to this table to talk about her movie. Welcome.
Thank you, Charlie.
Is this good to have you back? Is this what is this? A poem to India? I mean, what is it? What is this?
No, it's really like spending 2 hours at my family's dining table. And other.
So this was an easy movie to make then?
It was an intimate movie to make, actually a grueling movie in some ways, because we chose to do it in 30 days, which was kind of the idea. Let's make a film in 30 days without millions and a self-imposed kind of lean budget, and make it feel like every member of the audience is actually coming to the wedding.
68 characters?
68 characters, because we raised the money and the concept before the script was really finished. And when we finished it, Sabrina Dhawan, the lovely writer who finished it, it was 68 characters, 5 days, and a big flamboyant Indian wedding to put up. But that was part of the game.
They say this about the film. One, it may very well be gross in the end, one of the 5 biggest grossing foreign films to be seen in America. Lots of, I mean, that puts you in a pretty exclusive class. I mean, you think of some of the great foreign films that make up that list, and I wish I knew all of them. But it's a great thing to be. What is it you think makes this film resonate with an audience?
I'm seeing now the kind of euphoria it gives people, and that's a kind of magic you put in a movie that you can't plan for. It either happens or it doesn't, and it's one of those elusive things. This film seems to give you that dance in your step while you know, while you've wept and kind of belly laughed through it, you know. So it is about also a universality of family. I'm discovering that people from Iceland to Hungary come and ask me, you know, how did you know how it is to be in my family? Or they say the reverse, that I wish I could have a family as crazy and mad as this one. But so I think it's about the need to belong. Also.
Family like love knows no boundaries.
And this is a particularly affectionate and very irreverent, funny portrait. You know, so it does kind of entertain you at the same time.
What was you want people to walk away simply feeling good about these characters and their joy? And
not so easily. The film really, we hoped, is a meditation on love. You know, we sort of show 5 different stories, each one a face of love. And while there is joyful kind of magic love, there's also dysfunctional, creepy love in it. And so
dysfunctional, creepy love.
Yes, very much so. And so in that sense, it's not, I hope, just a feel-good sort of piece of fluff. I hope to, you know, hold some kind of mirror to our world, which in this case is a very modern, urban, in the kind of world I live in Delhi.
You want it to be a depiction of contemporary life in Delhi.
Yes, life as we live it.
And that transcends, I mean, back to my point, I mean, that has a certain appeal to whatever the boundaries are, if you can somehow get a sense of life as we live it.
I think so. I mean, I think one of the things I really wanted to do with Monsoon Wedding is, you know, refuse to pander. You know, refuse to pander to what some part of the world does not know about us, you know, but just to make a film as truthful and as authentic and as really enjoy every minute of it, you know, while making it.
All right, take a look at this. I want you to set this up for me. This is where the groom, Hamad, asked his betrothed, Aditi, right? Aditi, to make the final decision about whether they should be married or not. Yes. Here is that clip.
I really appreciate your telling me about Vikram. You didn't have to, but you did. That honesty means a lot to me. Yeah, I know it's a risk, but what marriage isn't a risk? Now, whether our parents introduce us or whether we meet in a club, what difference does it make?
Nicely done.
Thank you.
Are you, at the same time, while you're not preaching, do you want us to understand something about cultural differences and the culture of Delhi and the people who inhabit that place?
Very much. I mean, not so much as a cultural ambassador of my
Right.
country. I really refuse to do that kind of thing
Right.
because, but it's very much about the spirit of masti that is common to the Punjabi folk. And both the writer Sabrina Dhawan and myself are Punjabi, and we are sort of the people who work hard but party even harder. We're sort of the party animals of India. And we know a good time. You know, we are sort of bacchanalic whiskey and kebab folk. But we're also
Are you
very,
really?
yeah, very industrious, you know, farm peasant folk as
Yeah.
well. But we have this thing we call masti, you know, which is like to be intoxicated with life. And nothing exemplifies that more than a wedding in our families. So
Yeah.
it was really to use the premise of a wedding to try to capture this intoxication with life that led to Monsoon Wedding. But while making it, I wanted to really make it as much of a layering as possible about what contemporary life is, which is a seamless kind of blending of class and language. You know, there's 3 languages in Monsoon Wedding.
Yeah.
We sort of go into Hindi, Punjabi, English in one sentence. That's how we are, you know. And then similarly about music and song and costume. It's about this new, you know, India where Gucci and Prada and everybody else is, but we're also in traffic jams and extremely vibrant local culture.
Right.
So it's about that moment now.
This is a scene in which the wedding planner, who's Dubé, and Alice, the housemaid, introduce themselves to each other in the kitchen. Smitten, Dubé gives Alice one of his new business cards. Here it is, about love.
पर्वत लाल कन्हैया लाल दुबे हमने चेंज कर दिया है, पी के डूबे कर लिया। पी के डूबे बोले तो भी लोग हंसते हैं। अच्छा, शहर में सब हमको दुबे जी बोलते हैं।
वैसे पर्वत लाल तो अच्छा नाम है।
जी। ये
That's one of the several relationships you look at right there.
That's right.
We also met Aditi and Hemant.
Hemant. Yes.
Are you saying something about relationships? I mean, what other than they're interesting and difficult?
Well, trying to show, you know, relationships, love in different facets of the game. There is a very funny and charming teenage lust story.
Right, that's the third one.
Yeah,
Right,
that's
right,
the third
right.
one, and that's, you know, how to
With
get into
teenagers,
her, you
it's
know,
always lust.
It's always lust, yeah,
Yes.
and they don't seem to know that. And then there's this kind of magic love between Alice and Dubé, and then there's the love which I like very much, which is this sort of old shoe love between the father and mother of the bride, who have a marriage now of 25 years, and sex is kind of on the way, and you take each other for granted.
Okay,
and
so
then,
that's 4 plot lines already.
yeah,
And
and
there's
then
one
you
more?
have the story of the niece and the uncle, who is the kind of the patriarch of the family, who's the man who supports all the ones who are less fortunate, and he obviously has a darker past with his niece Ria, and what leads her to expose him in the context of this wedding. So it's pretty, you know, disturbing stuff as well, which is what life is like, especially when you all come together. I mean, Shakespeare did it, and Hollywood does it, and Bollywood does it. You know, the context of a wedding bringing the family together, and while there's fun and games, there's sort of skeletons in the cupboard. You know, so we sort of take it all in a slightly, you know, homemade Bollywood style, but it's very actually alternative to the way a normal commercial Indian film is made, to work with 68 actors, some legendary actors like Nasiruddin Shah, and then people who have never thought they could act before, you know, housewives in my community, members of my family playing major roles. So it's kind of like quite an experiment, you know, to bring them all together and film handheld by the camera, very fluid, very a camera that makes you feel like you're right there with us. That Declan Quinn, a wonderful cinematographer, shot. So it's a portrait of that kind of moment now in India, when it's kind of cool to be Indian. You know, it's kind of chic to be Indian. While we have access to the kind of Gucci's and so on in the mornings, we sort of rock to our own music at night, and our own music too has changed to adapt, to absorb, to you know, synthesize everything, all the modern and the old. So. Yeah. Monsoon Wedding kind of tries to do all of that and show you that.
Also, there's a strong technology segment in India as well.
Oh, huge, yeah. Hemant, our groom, has to play the computer software engineer, because that's what we're, so, you know, getting sort of famous for all over the world.
Yeah. We're creating software.
And and you know, creating the systems that perpetuate it.
Yeah. Will you make a film anytime soon that does not have as its venue India?
Actually, I've already finished a new film since Monsoon Wedding called Hysterical Blindness, which is took me from New Delhi to New Jersey with Uma Thurman and Jenna Rowlands and Juliette Lewis.
And what's the idea?
The idea, it's a working class drama set in New Jersey in the late 80s. A sort of highly strung woman played by Uma Thurman, who is desperate to be considered, to have a man, to be desirable, and the lengths she goes to. It's quite a neurotic piece in a wonderful kind of untold story of the lengths women go to find love. And it's a contentious and fairly tender relationship between her and her mother, played by Jenna Rowlands.
Occasionally you'll see a comparison between this film and Father of the Bride.
Which I haven't seen.
So you don't know?
I don't know.
It wasn't part of your consciousness at all?
No, not at all. Much as I love Steve Martin, but no, I haven't seen that film. But
yeah. How do you prepare to make a film, you?
It depends really what the idea is. If the idea has stayed with me for a while, then I begin to listen to it,
yeah.
And in this case, it was very, very serendipitous. I teach film at the Columbia Film School,
right.
and one of my teaching assistant is a great friend, a student there called Sabrina Dhawan, and she's from Delhi, like I am. 10 years later, has a different ear to the ground of the young, which is
right.
I don't know as well. And we began to say that there's really not a film that exists that's about the life we live, and ended up into what became Monsoon Wedding. But other ideas like
that's an interesting notion. You say to yourself, there's no film about the way we live.
Yes.
These values that we have, having to do with work hard, play hard, having to do with celebrate the joy of life. There was no film set in India that said that.
Yes, there's no film that I've seen that exists that said that, within India or outside India, And it's enough, the kind of images we have of India, or even that part of the world, not just India, as you well know. I mean, it's never shown in all its complexity and modernity and what, the flexibility of life, how it keeps changing, But instead there are very either tragic images constantly, or images that are like as old as the hills, that have nothing to do with what's happening now. So that's what led to Monsoon Wedding. But it's a different impulse that led me to create, let's say, Mississippi Masala, which
right.
was really about the hierarchy of color, about being Indian and a brown person
right,
between
right,
black and
right,
white
right, I remember.
in this community, and the Ugandan Asian exile from Uganda. So it's different, sometimes cerebral ideas, sometimes things that just don't let me go, like wanting to make an intimate film about family. I'm a mother now, and I'm very committed to family in general. So so it's different impulses that lead me to different places.
How much of your time is spent in India? Your base is New York.
Yes. My base is New York. If I'm making a film in India, I often spend 8 months a year there. But if I'm not, then at least a month or two, but not more. I go and come a lot, rather than spend long periods of time there.
Well, do you wish it was more, or do you just simply think it has the right balance?
I think it has the right balance, because I belong to Uganda as well. We have our main home in Kampala, so we spend the summer there now, but we used to live there until 2 years ago. So I really am kind of tricontinental in some ways, but it's kind of my life, so I don't think about it, even though it can appear daunting to others. Yeah.
America, Africa, and India.
Yes. Just keeping it simple.
and so the film that you're making with Uma, you've already completed.
Yes, it was at Sundance, and now it'll be opening on HBO, in fact, in August, I think.
And what's next after that?
I'm now making a decision. I have a number of offers from studios and others, and I'm deciding what to do. But in the immediate future, I'm making a short film on the aftermath of 9/11 that a company in France has asked 10 world directors to do 11 minutes each. And so Godard and Dani Stanovic and myself and wonderful directors have been asked to, Yusuf Shaheen, and to do their own version, and it will be released as a feature film on September 11th this coming year.
But it will be released how? I mean, in terms of...
In the screens, apparently. Vivendi is financing it.
And it will be...
It's a compilation feature.
And how long... In other words, they're going to combine all these films,
yes,
or just show one after the other?
It's a 11-minute segment from each director, so it'll be about a 110-minute film, which is the length of a feature. and each director will have 11 minutes to spin their tale.
And what will you tell in 10 minutes?
I'm going to make a film about sort of a poetic film about Islam. You know, Islam from the inside as we live it in my home, and as New Yorkers, how the perception of us has changed since September 11th. And I'm going to make a story of a grandfather and grandson crossing the city to the mosque on our Eid day, and how life has changed, both in terms of how we are perceived and how we perceive, and also how the perception of Islam has changed. And it's so different from those who actually practice and live it. As my, say, father-in-law does. We live with my in-laws. And it's a very interesting, you know, it's a very delicate issue, you know. And so I want to try to make a story about our point of view.
And it will come out on September 11th?
Inshallah.
Thank you.
Right.
Great to see you.
Nice to see you.